Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Syed.
My name is Syed RAZUAN.
Hello, my name is SAUFI.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad AMMAR bin Muhammad ZABIDI.
And hi, my name is Muhammad AIMAN.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I will explain about the concept and historical of Scientism. So Scientism is the belief that the methods and principles of natural science should be applied to all fields of inquiry, including social science, humanities, and philosophy. This view asserts that the science is the only reliable means of acquiring knowledge and the ultimate source of truth about reality. Karl Popper's Science as Falsification is an influential work on Scientism, where he argues that the scientific method is characterized by its ability to generate hypotheses that can be tested and potentially falsified through empirical observation. He contrasts this with other forms of knowledge, such as metaphysics and religion, which cannot be falsified in this way. Another important work is C.P. Snow's The Two Cultures, where he argues that the divide between the scientific and literary cultures is harmful to society and suggests that the two cultures should understand and appreciate each other's perspective. While some scholars embrace Scientism to promote scientific inquiry, others criticize it for its narrow view of knowledge. Susan Head argues that while the scientific method is valuable, it is not the only way of acquiring knowledge, and we need to adapt a more pluralistic approach to knowledge. Scientism's impact on society is also discussed, with some arguing that it has led to a reductionist view of human experiences and behavior, which cannot always be easily measured or reduced to scientific data. For conclusion, Scientism is a complex and controversial concept with ongoing debate on its impact on society and the value of different forms of inquiry. A balanced approach that recognizes the limitations of science and values other forms of knowledge may be the way forward. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Syed RAZUAN, and I will explain about the characteristic or principle of the Scientism. Alright. Based on the book of Scientism by Tom Sowell, the characteristic or principle of Scientism can be counted into 5 points. First of all, the science itself is unified, which is concerned with the both law and the theoretical terms of different science, which is the theoretical terms of one theory, it can turn out to be defined another term. And the second is there is no limits to science. Carnap say, there is no question whose answer is in principle unattainable by science, or simply said there is no issues that science cannot solve. Because the limitlessness of scientific knowledge may be seen as a reflection of the meaning, like empiricism of many identity of science movement. And the third is, science has been incredibly successful in controlling or explaining and making prediction. Like we all know, and all scientific appraisers agree that science will advance successfully with the natural science, leading the way, and the sociology and other disciplines joining in. And the fourth is, scientific results are objective thanks to the scientific method. A relationship between the process of gathering inductive data and a flimsy, frequently presumptive type of objectivity for laws. And the objectivity of law is assumed to be proved out by the constant failure of attempts to refute it. And the fifth is, science has been helpful to people, because most of people be aware that science is the most beneficial aspect of human learning, and that is the benefit to the majority of people, right? And it enables we to solve the issue, eliminate the negative impact, and bring forth positive outcomes. So I think that's it from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is SAUFI IMAN. Today I will give you a few examples regarding Scientism. The first example of Scientism is viewing all things in terms of physical process and what can be measured. To further explain about this thing, the people who is believing with Scientism would say if they don't see the things like metaphysical things, they wouldn't believe it. The second example of Scientism is the law of instrument. a cognitive bias that involves over-reliance on a familiar tool, like this analogy. If the only tool you have is a hammer, everything is gonna be a nail. Scientism is associated with wild claims that science can solve problems that are currently considered well beyond its reach. For example, claiming that science is the only source of knowledge and that all other descriptions of reality in areas such as social science and the humanities have a little value. Okay everyone, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, so we continue with the shortcoming of this ideology. Firstly, source of knowledge. So scientism is only rely on empirical evidence and scientific inquiry, while in Islam we believe in the Quran and the teachings of Prophet Muhammad SAW, which is hadith. Secondly, is purpose of knowledge. So scientism sees knowledge primarily as a means of understanding and manipulating the natural world for human benefits, while Islamic worldview consider knowledge as a means to recognize and serve God and humanity. Third is ethical and morality. Scientism generally does not have a clear ethical and moral framework, whereas Islamic ethics is based on the belief in a transcendent God who creates and or who set the standard for ethical behavior. So we continue with the strength of this ideology. Firstly is systematic approach. Scientific method provides systematic approach to investigate the phenomena, ensure that the research is conducted in a systematic and rigorous manner. And secondly is practical approach. Scientism has led to numerous practical approach that have improved human life, such as medical treatment, technological advancement, and environmental protection measures. Last but not least, universality. So the scientific method is a universal approach to investigating the natural world with finding applicable across different culture and contexts.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is AIMAN bin RAHMAN and my metric number is 221547. Okay, for the conclusions, we can conclude that the scientism is the belief of science is the only reliable source of knowledge. Based on one of the Western scholar, Kaukopi, scientific method is based on testing and potential hypothesis. At the same time, also there another Western scholar mentioned that the divide between scientism and humanities it lead to the harmful to the society. Therefore, in order to balance it, scientism should recognize its limitation and embrace another form of knowledge. In doing the research about the ideology, we found out there are some characteristics, shortcomings, strange, and one or two examples of scientism that we can relate with in our life. The first characteristic that we recognize that the science is many parts as it concerns both law and empirical. Second, the science no limit. This can be proved by looking at one of the Western scholars said that there's no question that unable by the science. And lastly, the science has been helpful to the humankind as able to serve the issue, eliminate the negative impact, and giving the positive outcome. As we know, there's nothing is perfect. So the shortcoming of this ideology is that it only ascertainment when there's physical evidence. However, there's something benefit that we can get from this ideology that it leads to the improvement of the human life and make it easier to understand about some knowledge. Example of the scientism that we can relate in our life is that it leads to the naive materialism that's the only concern about physical and I think that's all from our group. Thank you.
Is your view, your outlook that science is the only way to truth?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been to India?
No, I haven't.
You haven't been to India?
I'd love to.
Okay. Do you believe India exists?
Yes.
You haven't been there, you haven't observed it, yet you believe it exists.
I've seen photographs taken from space.
So look, here's the problem, John. You haven't observed India yourself, yet you believe it exists based on photographs and people that have been there. Now, how do you know those photographs are actually of India? And that you're not just being told they're of India?
I think that
your belief India exists is based on something called testimony, which is, by the way, John, an integral part of the scientific method, right?
Well, yes.
Something you deny in your book itself. You're going by the testimony of people. Do you acknowledge testimony as a valid route to knowledge? It's a simple question.
We're going back to school.
Assalamualaikum student and selamat Hari Raya. What chapter that we already cover last class? But before that, how about your Hari Raya, guys?
My raya is doing great, sir. Oh, well, me too. Alhamdulillah, so good.
Good. Okay, guys. Today we want to learn about hypothesis. So hypothesis is mean about the relationship between two or more variables or a proposed explanation for some observed phenomena. Okay, for example, if someone eats a lot, what is what?
God, what's wrong with him? Sir! SAUFI has been possessed! Oh my God, sir!
No, it's just mythos. Maybe if disease is calm, after 1 minute, I think he should be okay. And just leave him.
Believe me, sir, he has been possessed.
So, from the scene, we can see the lecturer is practicing Western ideology, which is Scientism. This is because he don't believe the possessed by something or a supernatural entity. He thinks maybe it is just a physiological or neurological phenomenon rather than by supernatural forces.
Hey, you know what happened to SAUFI? I think he's been possessed, right? But why sir just ignore him?
I think sir do not believe in metaphysical things like that.
Yes, I think so. Because I had read one of book of Scientism that they do not believe on these metaphysical things, and there's just think that science is very successful in prediction and making explanation. Just like that, just thought that he has a syndrome like that. No, it's not very true, right?
Yes, I think so, because in Islam we still believe in metaphysical things like
Yes.
this.
Indeed, in Quran also have a surah of jinn. I think so it's very scientism. But how about SAUFI?
I think I know.
While the students believe that it came from supernatural forces, because as a Muslims, apart from believing on the physical existence, we also need to believe in spiritual things like heaven, angel, hereafter, although cannot be measured by scientific method. That's all from me. Thank you.
Now you know about the historical of scientism, and also the characteristic of scientism, and also the example of scientism, and also the strength and shortcoming for the scientism belief.